This podcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Widjabul-Waiable people of the Bundjalung Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and future and recognise the importance of storytelling as a critical part of connection to country and generational oral history. Welcome to Ask Me About My Transsexual Agenda. I'm your host Pippin, and with me is my guest today, Kel, my
Hi.
boyfriend.
That's me. I'm your boyfriend. And I'm also here.
You are also here. What was your agenda this week?
I set up this new amp under my desk and a bunch of this audio stuff, which has been fun and the thing I like doing. So that's good.
I enjoyed listening to you set up the audio.
Wow.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3,
What?
4.
I particularly liked the question mark at the end of your was.
Yeah.
What?
What? You know, you never know.
What do you do? What do you do, Kel? Because I'm your boyfriend and I have no idea. What do you do? When people ask me, I say that your degree has changed like a load of times and that you probably don't know what you're doing at this point.
Yeah. So maybe I've never known exactly what I'm doing. Day to day, I actually do a lot of fixing machinery on the farm that I work at, which you obviously know. I do macadamias. Everyone should check out Australia's native macadamias and try and protect them. I don't do that. I grow them and eat them. And then my degree, I was studying a sociology, a bachelor's in sociology, majoring in social science and politics and government. Well, I've got that backwards. It's degree of social science, majoring in sociology and politics and government.
This is what I was talking about before. It's changed so many times. We're not sure anymore.
Yeah, and that's even before the changes. And now it's, SCU doesn't think people should be informed about their rights or how, social landscapes are changing or how that informs policy or anything. So there's no social sciences department at SCU anymore. So now it's an art degree and maybe it's got a major in sociology. Ultimately, it'll be done, and that's what I care about.
You are so nearly finished.
So close.
You are so close.
Next year.
Awesome. Do you want to ask me about my agenda?
Yeah. What's your agenda?
I remembered I have this mug.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot that I bought this $4 mug.
This llama-ass mug.
It is a party llama, so I will be sipping tea from my party llama.
Yeah. He's actually partying hard as well. You can't see it.
You can't see it because it's an audio medium.
Yeah.
It's definitely a party llama.
Yeah. Most assuredly.
Okay.
Maybe a donut as well. Maybe it's like a cake.
Well, I initially thought it was a donut, which is why I got excited about it first, because it was...
Yeah. No, that's me too.
Well, because it was right next to... I got you that hamburger mug.
Lamburger.
Yeah, which is actually a way better mug, because the llama's head is hollow for some reason, so...
Lack of education.
Yeah, as you discussed earlier, we're doing fine with education in Australia.
This llama's from SCU, actually.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we are answering a question. Just one question today, because it's actually like 3 questions in one question. You know how people ask questions and they're actually like 50 questions? But
boy, do I.
Yeah. So, we have a question, and it was actually submitted by our friend Zoe.
Yay! I love Zoe's dog.
We love Zoe too.
I also love Zoe, but mostly because they give me access to the dog.
Yeah, exactly. And it was mainly a sort of practice question of things that she has heard from concerned parents over the years. Zoe's a really staunch trans ally, so she does her best to educate people and speak up when she can. So she knows her shit, and she submitted this, and I think it's a really good starting point.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so here's the question. Surely this, gender affirmation healthcare, should be an elective surgery available privately and not something the taxpayers should be funding over other urgent life-saving medical procedures.
Whoa, what if it was?
If someone is toying with their identity, I can respect that as long as I don't have to pay for it, and as long as the trans agenda isn't being shoved down my children's throats. Thoughts?
Oh boy, I'm sure most of my thoughts will be in your writing and stuff in a minute. But like, first off,
it's a very common thought process. It's a very common question, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, well, actually, it's not publicly funded or that easy to get.
Exactly.
Or, like before you even get to any of the social realities or the psychological or all the reasons why trans healthcare is life-saving healthcare, that thing's not happening.
Yeah, it's tough because you can't just, I mean, you can, but you shouldn't just tell someone, that's not a real question, because everything you said is not real. Like, it's just not real.
Yeah,
so
you lied to me a bunch and then put a question mark at the end of it.
That's you made a bunch of assumptions.
Yeah, it's like,
so
actually you've got,
yeah, but it is an extremely common question, especially the, trans agenda being shoved down children's throats, and, that being kind of a huge reason for this podcast, answering questions and stuff.
Like as a practice test question, it's probably a good idea to ask the obvious dumb thing that a million people will be asked a million times by people who don't actually care.
Yeah, exactly. And help people have something up their sleeve for the most common questions, or, well, like you said, not questions, just statements with question marks at the end. Like, they can have something up their sleeve to rebut those really stupid, thoughtless things. So thank you, Zoe, for submitting that, because it is a really good starting point, I think. So there is a huge assumption that there are more LGBTQ plus people than ever before, and this is true. Would you agree?
In the sense that we haven't been called LGBTQ plus people for the last until the last fucking 40 years.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly a counting and statistics problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna briefly go over a little bit of history of Australian laws surrounding gay rights, because that's kind of necessary to have this particular part of the non-question question answered.
Yeah.
So between 1975 and 1997, the states and territories progressively repealed anti-homosexuality laws that dated back to the colonial era. And this is obviously talking about, like, literally homosexuality being legal, illegal, and punishable, and with really, really intense consequences.
So you're saying there was slow progress until I came along and they were like, we've actually got to turn this around. Fuck them queers.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's what, yeah. So, although these decades of winning rights for the queer population meant that more people were allowed to be openly themselves in certain ways, it is important to note that decriminalization is not the same as legalization, and additionally, laws can differ from state to state. You actually know way more about this than I do. Do you just want to, briefly explain that laws can be different from state to state and why that is?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Basically, we have a very confusing parliamentary system that's kind of we take a bunch of rules and norms from the American system of multiple houses and specifically the state and federal splits, and then we keep a lot of the other parliamentary rules, anything that looks like it came from Britain did, and then a lot of the other sort of structural stuff is a big combination of how it worked already in other establishing colonies and in America especially. But yeah, basically the federal government has a specific mandate in the Constitution to make laws around specific things for the entire Australian population. Within that, they have the ability, say, in the Marriage Act, to define what things are exclusionary, like anyone in Australia, regardless of their state's laws, if they are marrying someone under 16, that they can't. You can't enter into it if you're not compos mentis, if you don't know what's going on.
These are very hard and fast.
So they're obvious exclusions, and the federal government has a mandate to decide certain things like that. They then, but basically anything that the Constitution and things that we can add to change the Constitution and stuff like that, anything that isn't stated in the Constitution that it's a federal responsibility, it's just inferred that that's a state responsibility.
Right, yeah.
So there's not there's not a list somewhere in the Parliament saying federal does this, states do this. There's a list that says federal can do this, and then everything else is kind of figured out when it comes up with the assumption that states do most of it.
Okay.
And then ultimately the federal government is mostly concerned with funding state governments and federal programs, and enacting sort of national policy and things that interact with other countries and whatnot. But yeah, so basically marriage, there are some explicit things that are disallowed in the Marriage Act, which, as you'll talk about soon, is why John Howard was able to...
Oh, we're going to talk about John Howard.
Yeah.
Don't
yeah,
you worry.
I won't go into it.
We are going to talk about John Howard. I have some questions for you.
Yeah, so he could come in and make a big change, but even within that change, the states still had a lot of power to make their own decisions, but because he made it an explicit exclusion, a state couldn't supersede his ban on gay marriage.
Yeah.
Because their powers allow them to make these things against federal law.
Yeah.
But then, alternatively, now that it's not that way, now that that's been reversed, the states could bring in homophobic laws.
Yeah.
On top of the non-homophobic federal laws, but it doesn't work that other way around.
Yeah, and, that's, even during decriminalization efforts and wins over the decades of fighting for gay rights, we still saw individual states and territories still had practices in effect to prevent queer people from working and finding housing, just appearing in public life in general, and that's where that kind of distinction gets really important.
Absolutely, and especially in the cases where state and federal police have very different powers, and the ways that state police can enforce state laws even while they're still being tested by the federal government. It all comes into it. It's all very messy, and just like in the United States, it's like that's kind of the point. Like, the systems were never really set up to run super smoothly. There's kind of an inbuilt amount of friction which in theory is to properly test ideas.
Yeah.
And, like, in some cases, that does mean you end up with very robust laws after things have gone through all their difficult ups and downs, but other times you just have these weird stagnating laws that feel like they could be flipped at any moment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for explaining the difference, because I think, I have quite a few American friends, and you've got quite a few friends overseas and family overseas, and I think going over specifically like Australian ways of dealing with stuff is both unique and very, very, very similar. I'm sure a lot of my American friends that'll ring a few bells for them.
Yeah, I think also it's worth noting that, like, a lot of other Commonwealth countries have at least a similar parliamentary system set up. Canada's, as I understand it, is pretty similar as well, but you don't see it the same in Britain. Britain's so small, it's kind of, there's a federal government and then there's local governments, which kind of just acts differently. It doesn't really lead to that much more direct democracy like you might hope it could.
Yeah.
But it does mean that, like, Ireland and Scotland are all able to have more influence on themselves within Great Britain, and I don't really understand how the countries within Great Britain actually enact power and if they have different parliaments and laws and stuff. I've only ever looked at it as sort of like Westminster,
Yeah. Maybe I should get a British guest on.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned Canada, so that's a good segue. You also mentioned John Howard. So, as a response to cases of gay couples in Canada being allowed to marry due to specific wording of marriage laws, in 2004, Prime Minister John Howard introduced a marriage amendment bill to specifically exclude homosexual marriage, as well as kind of stripping the marriage status of gay couples who were legally married overseas and came to Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, and explicitly saying that gay couples married in other countries in the future coming into Australia wouldn't be recognised under Australian law as legally married for any tax purposes or anything like that. It was still easy enough to recognise it as a civil partnership in the way that Australian homosexual relationships were and stuff. So it's just, there wasn't a complete
and there has been
you're unrelated once you get here.
Yeah. And the legal identification of being in a gay couple, the government recognizing that, I think was actually the year before, in 2003. So in 2004, the following year is when Howard did his bullshit, which is very fun and cool.
And specifically because of the similarities in the Commonwealth systems, that the couple in Canada just went ahead and got married and then petitioned the federal government that we've gone through the marriage ceremony, we meet all the legal requirements of marriage. There is nothing saying marriage is only heterosexual.
Yeah, it's Airbud rules for marriage.
Yeah, and once Airbud's done it, instead, Canada put in a rule saying dogs can play basketball.
Yeah.
It turns out, America and Australia, because Bush put forward pretty much the exact same amendment that Howard put forward, but in the American
Peas
system.
in a pod.
Oh boy, yeah. They were reacting to that clear path to challenge it and establish a way to change the laws.
Which I think is a pretty decent example of the way that right-wing politicians react to these things. And it's always a reaction that is very Howard-esque, like we're seeing it today on an even more severe scale in America and, obviously. But I think it's like a really good example of it wasn't thought about. It wasn't even considered until this gay couple got their right to be legally recognized as a married couple. And I think we should also point out that being legally recognized as married gives you certain protections under the law, which is why it's such a big deal. Yeah. Just, in case you didn't figure that one out already. But
yeah, and on that note, that's why a lot of the the arguments before the plebiscite and stuff were so disingenuous. None of these laws have ever said that a Catholic priest has to do marriages for gay people. Not a single one of the laws that have ever come into effect anywhere compel religious people to allow same-sex partnerships against their religion or anything like that.
No, it's
it's an entirely civil rights-based argument. And yeah, all of the responses are very telling. And I'd go further as to say they're now actually doing an entirely different thing that's worse. I feel like was it 2004?
Yeah.
Like Howard and Bush, although, parts of a history of right-wingery and stuff, were also still operating from a very uninterrogated heteronormative position. I think it possibly was the first time that Howard or Bush really considered that the meaning of marriage as they understood it could change.
Yeah.
Whereas I think by now, with any trans issue or anything, or even, however many years ago for the plebiscite, there had then been enough discussion and enough
rhetoric
and just visibility of queer people that I think it's a
we
much
weren't so
more
easily ignored.
Yeah, I mean, not that we were before that either, because we had all that 80s and all the big queer stuff, but I think there was just a kind of feeling of, well, they'll just kind of exist on the margins and they're not going to try and come for why would a queer guy care about getting married? That's...
Oh boy, have we had that one.
Yeah, and personally, that kind of gels with me.
Yeah.
I actually don't want anything to do with any of your gods.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of queer people I know personally are not interested in marriage.
But some are, and even beyond that, there's all these civil
exactly
things,
it's important for a whole list of other reasons, like financial security and housing security, and it's not just marriage. And Howard knew that.
Yeah.
The same-sex marriage plebiscite was 2016. We remember that. Good fun. And then it was legalized in 2017.
Woo!
Woo! America beat us. How do you feel about that?
USA.
Yeah,
USA.
I bring that up because a lot of the time, I think especially to even my American friends, Australia is a lot more left-leaning and stuff. Oh boy,
it's not. It's not, guys.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not.
I'm real sorry. I've got some news for you. But yeah, so I just thought.
I mean, just to jump on, like, this isn't the podcast for it. I'm sure you'll have other more depressing podcasts. But like, we literally had freedom rides in Australia that were taking the tactics of the freedom rides in America. You know, the indigenous people of Australia have gone through like all the exact same racism, and that's happened to other black bodies, not just indigenous people.
Yeah.
And actually, pretty much every right we've bothered to win, we've seen America win first.
Yep.
Yeah, hate it. We should do better.
Yep. Yeah, I think
we haven't even killed any politicians over here.
I know. Where's our Luigi and our,
you know,
whoever the fuck shot Trump and missed?
I've got feelings.
Did they get him? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know anymore. There's been too many. I don't know. Look, that's one thing that you guys are definitely beating us on, and I feel bad for you about. I'm really sorry about that one.
I actually heard that Cody Johnston shot Charlie Kirk.
Oh.
Robert Evans told me.
Whoa, Robert Evans told you.
He came to me at 4 a.m.
Oh, no.
And he told me, ooh, Cody Johnston shot Charlie Kirk. He told me a day before it happened, too.
Kel, that joke is for one person. And that one person, we love you. And you're welcome. Okay. So, speaking of differences between us and our big brother America, you ever heard of the gay panic defense?
Heard of her. She was my girlfriend in high school.
Whoa. It is 3 minutes to midnight. Can you tell?
I'm not even sure what that meant.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, the gay panic defense is, well, it was a legal defense. A literal legal defense used to basically excuse the abuse and murders of gay and trans people. And that was finally abolished in 2021.
Fuck me. I mean, I think I knew that, but maybe I'd try not to remember it. Fuck me. Like, in Queensland specifically, by any chance, or federally?
Here's the thing. You know that explanation I made you do earlier about the differences between federal and
I vaguely remember
state?
that.
Yeah. So the gay panic defense is one of those kinds of issues, along with conversion therapy, that it actually differed state to state for a really long time. They were going back and forth on abolishing it and not abolishing it. It was only federally abolished in 2021.
By federally abolished, do you mean abolished by an act of federal parliament, or do you mean the last state finally stepped in line?
Oh no, yeah, the second one, the last state finally abolished.
Yeah. So the federal government has never taken a stance on deciding what the state governments can do in that case. Yeah. If I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I believe that means that it's just, and tell me if I'm wrong, but was it Queensland?
I think it
will have been Queensland or the
South
NT.
Australia.
Okay, or South Australia. I mean, look, it can be any of them apart from ACT, because they always get the good laws first, because it's full of people who think. I just got the vamping signal. And,
I just gave Kel a vamping signal while I Google something really quick.
2 elephants and a cymbal fall off a cliff. But I'm falling back on my old community theatre emceeing days. Do you know how to titillate an ocelot? Oh. Well, you oscillate its tit a lot, don't you? New one
What's
I thought
the
of
bet that
today.
every time that you come on as a guest, you're going to make that joke like it's the first time you've ever made that joke?
I don't think anyone's ever made that joke before, Pippin. That's my
No.
joke that I made up, just like this other one that I made up this
Okay,
morning
alright.
about how everyone keeps falling off their skis, and I'm brave enough to say that it's because of wake. So if we can't figure it out, I'm just going to say it was Queensland and move on, because it's normally Queensland. This is fact-checking Kel checking in. It was South Australia. They were last. I was wrong. Pip was right.
Turns out, this shit is just as confusing as I thought it would be.
Yeah. I'm gay and I'm panicking about it. What does that get me?
Jail? I don't know.
Afterlife?
Murdered?
Hey, when we edit a bunch
Murdered
of that
and
out,
the murderer gets away scot-free.
good on him.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just here to get men off, so.
Okay,
Hey,
that one was pretty good.
when
That
you
one
edit
was
this
really
down, can you not cut out my good jokes? Thanks.
I will keep your...
What am I saying? I'll
Hey.
be editing this.
No, I'll edit it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
No, I want to keep your good jokes.
Me too. I'll help.
2024.
Whoa.
Conversion therapy to cure queer people was finally banned. That was last year.
That was last year.
Yeah. So again,
What's the bet
referring
it's not ended to? Like, if it's not
referring
allowed.
back to your description of the differences there. Conversion therapy is one of those things where it is officially banned. However, abusive parents exist. Abusive churches exist. It's banned, but it's not really, because there's no real way to regulate trying to convert someone out of gayness, because at this point, heterosexuality is just a part of society. So, it's the dominant part of society. So, a lot of things are kind of conversion therapy based that we wouldn't really think about, and parental abuse is definitely one of those things as well, which causes things like homelessness and addiction, things like that. And yeah, so conversion therapy practices, as in like facilities that you send people to, are banned. And laws about that differ state to state.
Yeah, I guess that's, again, I'd like to look up the specifics of that too, because like I would assume that first and foremost, no legitimate medical organization in Australia, like the I can't remember what they're called, DHM or whatever it is, DHS. No, that's wrong. TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, absolutely would not like condone any therapy like that. So I wonder how much like what those laws actually mean. Like, are the laws banning federal or state-funded medical bodies from participating in that? Are they actually making it an offense to be doing it at all? Because if they're not doing that, any church can probably still run one. Or
yeah,
like
that's a
any
really
private,
good question. Isn't it offense?
Yeah,
to
like
do
any
that,
private person
it,
could be running one, unless it's literally like a law they're breaking.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that too is like maybe the way to control it with churches would be if we had some mechanism to like remove a church's status as a church if they were found to be doing it and stuff. But even that's not as simple as like in the States you can have your charity status or whatever they call it rescinded if you're found to do certain things.
Yeah.
I think that just from the last thing I was looking at about quantifying religious populations, I get the impression that it is much harder to, like, you have to do quite a bit of work to be recognised as a legitimate religion in Australia. You need to have a certain amount of infrastructure and a bunch of other stuff as well. So I'd imagine it could be hard to have a mechanism that just removes that recognition for something like that. So yeah, be interested to see how those laws actually work.
Yeah, well, they would definitely be affected by the last piece of little bit of timeline, which is this year, 2025, extensive and comprehensive federal hate crime legislation explicitly includes sexual orientation, gender identity, and intersex status.
As a protected class?
Yes.
Yes. Woo!
So
that's good. That is a good thing.
That happened this year.
Yay.
2025.
Too late, but like,
way
good.
Too late, but
good. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing, and it affects what you were saying
absolutely
just before, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I suspect that if there is still as much muddiness around conversion therapy and its legal status as I assume there would be, I think that formalizing a protective status is one of the easiest mechanisms to then put pressure on an organization doing something like that.
Yeah, and that's been something that advocates and activists and so many people have been fighting for fucking decades. And it's happened. It's finally happened.
And probably most people would have thought that happened in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
If you were to, like, ask a random person on the street.
I think
even a lot of queer people.
Yeah, and I think...
because it kind of just makes sense. That's how laws are meant to work. They're meant to protect people.
I think a lot of people would assume that there would be anti-discrimination laws already in place that would do what this federal hate crime legislation actually does.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so going over this timeline is to point out that as more anti-discrimination legislations came into effect, more queer people were allowed to enter the workforce and the public sphere without fear for their safety, their financial and housing security, as well as the threat of imprisonment.
Yeah.
Going to jail, just, because you're gay. And I think that's another one of those things that people didn't realize was a thing until pretty fucking recently. And it is still a thing around the world, and seems to be a thing again, which is
back in vogue.
Fun.
That's the 20s for you. It'll happen.
Good old 20s. So we saw a rise in people publicly identifying as queer because they didn't have this intense fear of economic, political, legal, and social persecution.
Yeah.
So your kids will certainly see more queer people than you saw in your youth, because in your youth it was likely a criminal offense.
Yeah, and then that's self-compounding, because you see more people like you get braver and you come out as well,
Yeah.
That's just how it happens.
That's just how it works. And I think, because this is all to answer that one question that we had in the beginning.
Oh, good. Did you say there were 3?
No, that's just this one question.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that's why there's
fair.
one.
That's
yeah, like, exactly. That's the trans agenda is not being shoved down your child's throat. Your child is simply seeing people allowed to be themselves, and that might really help them out.
Yeah.
And look, even if it doesn't help your kid out, it'll help someone's kid out.
Yeah, it's just it's not scary. It's like, it's Bob the Builder shit.
Yeah.
Like it's the stuff everyone's grown up seeing on Play School and the Wiggles and everyone saying it. It's just being applied to a group that you think is icky.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's the phobia part.
It's jeffed up.
It is jabbed up. And I think genuinely the only thing I can think to ask anyone who asks that question legitimately is, do you want your child to grow up in a world where gay and trans people can no longer access work and housing and healthcare under the threat of incarceration for being a person? That's really just, not a lot of things are black and white. And going over the timeline of all those laws and how much time it took to get shit done, everything is so grey when it comes to that stuff. But a lot of the time it is black and white. It's, do you want your kid to grow up in a world where people just aren't allowed to be a person?
Yeah. Most broad laws that make a distinction between populations, such as apartheid, are actually pretty black and white, and
pretty quite literally black and white.
Yeah, in however many years, Australian history will say that everyone always was nice to everyone. And
absolutely.
that none of this ever
We've
had
always
to
been so inclusive.
Yeah, and we'll have to be working to make sure that it's recognized so those rights can't be taken away.
Yeah.
Just like with anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's why you will always have a lot of people still fighting, even when you look around and everything looks pretty peaceful to you. You have to continue that fight because those rights can be taken away, as we saw with John fucking Howard, which is yeah, why I brought him up. He's a really important figure in Australian politics for so many reasons, but what he did by explicitly doing that through a marriage amendment bill was so damaging.
Cowardly.
It was cowardly, and it set us back so many years. So many years.
It's so important. Like, it's not just him. It passed.
Oh no, absolutely.
We have an actual parliamentary system. He put forward a thing. He didn't actually wasn't able to actually unilaterally change it. It got through, and it's that's on Labour.
Yeah,
and the Greens, and it was a different time. They did have much more control.
But yeah, it is on just Australian politics as a whole, really using
it's on
gay
LNP
people as a cudgel again, and
yeah, it's absolutely on LNP members and like the Jackie Lambys of the world who will eventually then say like, no, we always supported everyone's rights.
No, I mean, not pure shit.
Let 1,000 blossoms bloom. I don't know how he voted, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, yeah. Yeah, I don't know either.
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
He really doesn't like those fucking Armenian blossoms, does he?
No, those blossoms should never bloom.
So who knows?
We're talking about Bob Catter to my American friends. I'm so sorry.
I feel like Armenian's wrong. Lebanese.
He'd still be mad about you calling him Armenian.
Oh yeah, might be mad.
It might be. So yeah, basically that going over that timeline, all of that conversation was to basically lay out that gay and trans people, we can't change ourselves, but the laws surrounding our ability to live safely and freely can change. And like we discussed, they can change quicker. They can, and they should change a lot quicker than they have been. Anti-trans and gay rhetoric around children acknowledging the existence of queer people only serves to encourage the public to consider the reversal of those rights.
Yeah.
And your child knowing that gay and trans people exist and that you, as a parent, guardian, or just a general community member, outwardly support queer rights, it could save their life.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was the first part of that question, Kel.
Oh, so it was a multi-part question. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Are there 3 parts to the question?
There's 2 parts to the question.
All right.
So I'm just going to restate the question.
Yeah, let's go again.
So it was about gender affirmation healthcare. Shouldn't it be an elective surgery available privately and not something the taxpayers should be funding over other urgent life-saving medical procedures? And the question we just answered was the second part of that question, which was, I can respect someone's identity as long as the agenda isn't being shoved down my kids' throats. So we're going to go back to that first part, which is about gender affirmation healthcare. So what is gender affirming care? Kel, when you hear that phrase, gender affirming care, what do you think about?
To be totally honest, mostly rage. You know, like, it's because I've seen nothing but a struggle for you and other trans friends to, there's quite aside from gender affirming, like gender appropriate, there's been so little actual access to any of that stuff. It's like, I'm not sure most of the Australian medical system knows what that is.
No.
You know, some do, you know.
Yeah.
Shout out Dr. Velakis. Fuck yeah.
It's a very specialized type of care that a lot of general healthcare professionals really have no idea about, including nurses and things like that. I've definitely been to nurses who had no idea that testosterone was a treatment for menopause. Yeah, so, okay, rage.
Yeah, you know, I think, like...
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
I understand some of what it is and should be, and, like, I know a lot of the... some of the nursing psychology stuff I looked at is, like, quite aside from, we might talk about gender-affirming care as being, you know, healthcare that helps to actively change your gender expression or something like that. It's also just being able to go into a doctor and being gendered correctly in whatever body you're in.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more what I think of is, like, you know, when we look and try really hard, there is gender-affirming healthcare available in the sense that when you find the right person, you can get on testosterone, you can get this, you can get that. But in the more general sense, I don't think gender-affirming healthcare is available at all, even with being able to do that, because just navigating the system means that you're being faced with people who sometimes go out of their way not to affirm your gender.
Yeah. And I think...
And therefore your identity.
Yeah. And you're saying that as someone who has been with me to many, many appointments and made many, many phone calls for me and complained to the manager for me.
Yeah. And like, I absolutely don't want to make too big a comparison, but I'm definitely sensitive to it because, like, I'm a big boy. I'm a sumo class boy, and I've never really felt comfortable in a doctor's office, no matter what I'm talking to him about, just because of this added lens of weight loss and how that affects the sort of care you get.
Right, like that you feel like they're just seeing you as a fat guy.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
even
the
even
lens
when
they're
I
seeing you through.
yeah, even
In the same
even
way that when they see me, oh, you're a trans person, so all of the care.
yeah,
is
exactly.
weird.
Because I wouldn't even say I wouldn't even say it's always they just see me as a fat guy, but I think it's always something that changes the options I get given, or the
Yeah.
and I think it's a similar sort of a mechanism because it's a outwardly obvious thing, especially to a medical professional who, in my case, knows the weight I quote unquote should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go over what gender affirming care refers to, not as a specific medical practice, but like what people are talking about when they bring up gender affirmation care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's usually used as a catch-all phrase for sex change surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, definitely heard that one. It's usually exclusively reported on by misled and misguided outlets as this equals surgery.
I think also I do generally hear it like mixed in with purely HRT.
Yes.
As well?
And hormones. Yeah, surgery and hormones. Changing your body.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But it includes a variety of different kinds of care. It includes things like therapy. It includes things like puberty blockers, which are completely different from hormones.
Yeah.
And so gender affirming surgery is also referring to multiple different procedures. Gender affirming surgery can include mastectomies, breast augmentation, but it can also include things like facial feminization surgery.
Turkish hair plugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Gender affirming surgery isn't
haircuts.
Trans surgery.
Yeah.
It's gender affirming.
Yeah.
Cis guys go and get hair plugs. Cis women get work done wherever. Cis guys get thigh implants. They get taller. They get smaller. We all do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Clothing,
and
different clothing.
Yeah, it's like one of the. It's such a big industry that like people know there's a joke about Turkey being the place to go to get hair plug surgery. And yet that's not treated at all the same as like, oh, you might go to Bali to get a sex reassignment.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But how's that any different?
Yeah, exactly.
Going to a country where it's cheaper to get your gender affirming care.
Yeah, well, speaking of. Currently, as you were saying right at the beginning with your reaction to the question, gender affirmation care is not covered by Medicare.
What?
Who could have thunk
That's
it?
why there's all that money sitting in our account waiting.
Whoa, it's just waiting there.
Just waiting.
Yeah, so it's not covered by Medicare, and I think this is something that tends to freak people out a lot, is thinking about their tax dollars going to something that they may not agree with, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's not how taxes work.
I mean, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah. So for starters, that's not how taxes work.
Yeah.
You can't pick and choose.
Nope.
Like that. That would be very authoritarian and horrific, honestly. In 2021, a petition to federal parliament for gender-affirming surgery to be included on Medicare gained nearly 150,000 signatures. That's a really high amount of signatures for a petition to federal parliament. I would like to see that number much higher.
Yeah. I mean, and it is, as you say, it is high, and it's also like the reason it's important to note that it is high for a petition is like the vast majority of people never even see these petitions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's
and it is noted as being a really remarkably high amount of
very good
signatures.
Yeah.
So as of now in 2025, adding gender-affirming surgeries specifically to Medicare is still a really big topic of discussion among healthcare professionals, and it's yet to be implemented at all.
Yeah.
According to an ABC article I read that was published in 2023, only a handful of Australian surgeons offer certain gender-affirming procedures, meaning transgender people are waiting for years or seeking options overseas. Surgeons have told the ABC the lack of specific Medicare item numbers for gender-affirming surgeries means costs are unpredictable and not transparent, and some procedures aren't covered. Procedures were not listed on Medicare, meaning surgeons have to use different item numbers that don't quite line up with the procedure.
God.
So it's a nightmare for health professionals. It's not just a nightmare for me as a trans person, you as my boyfriend helping me navigate all this shit. It's a nightmare for the people trying to give me the care that I need.
and like not at all to divorce it from the trans identity specifically, but like I feel like Australian healthcare is rife with, I feel like every single bit of actual help I've gotten has included a doctor going, all right, well, this isn't really how you do it, but I'm going to put it in like this so that you're allowed to get this X-ray or this or that.
Literally how most trans men in Australia get prescribed testosterone.
And like, 100%. But I'm not sure it's that different for fucking anything.
Yeah.
I think our entire medical system, which should be one of the best in the world for providing socialized healthcare, we have the sort of building blocks of that. I feel like every aspect of anything more than, oh, you've got a cold, here's some Panadol, doctors are jumping through those sorts of hoops. And, you know, so I guess to some extent, I'm glad they're clearly, you know, they're good at it. They know how to do it. And the ones that care can utilize that to help trans people.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I'd rather that than it be an airtight system where they can't. But fuck.
I really think it's the biggest indicator that trans healthcare as a topic is just a political football, because actual health professionals understand that all of this shit is just making their jobs harder.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just making my life and other trans people's lives fucking miserable trying to navigate it all. And, like, not even just trying to navigate it, just knowing that that is a topic of debate is a nightmare. And then it's like,
God forbid you turn on the project.
There's so many people who are professionals, as in, and like, it takes forever to be a fucking surgeon and a doctor. Come on. Like, you don't understand this shit through a Google search. You just don't. I don't. I had to look up a bunch of shit and I gave up halfway through. So I had to, people study for their whole lives and they can't help certain people because they're being used as a political football.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's my rant about that.
Yep.
It's very frustrating when people act like trans healthcare is this big scary agenda and stuff, when it's like, it's not new.
No.
It's not new at all. Of course there are new things coming out all the time. That's how science works. But trans healthcare is not new at all.
Yeah.
It's just to scare people and make trans people's lives so much more difficult, trying to access the things that we need and making it insanely expensive.
Yeah.
'Cause that's why Medicare is such a huge topic, is because of the cost. It's like literally any other healthcare. The barrier is usually cost. Any other healthcare.
Yeah. And cost goes down by it being available, people being able to do it regularly and figure out better, cheaper ways of doing it. You know, like the government has to support that, but ultimately it's just a process like anything else, and it'll get cheaper if you let it, rather than actively stopping people from researching it. It's so. I think that's the thing that I'm most worried about, is even as things are slowly won and that slowly changes, it feels like we will then be at the precipice of yet another doctors don't do medicine on black bodies enough, so we don't when really it should be a literally perfect opportunity. You know, hormones literally change muscle, they change all sorts of things. Guess what? Get someone who had a heart attack when they were a woman and then one when they were a man.
Yeah.
I bet they can tell you some stuff that will save lives.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had an interesting experience doing a asthma test at the nurse's office.
Yeah.
When I first got diagnosed, they weren't sure whether to mark me as female or male.
Yeah.
And
like, I'm impressed they told you that, rather than, you know, they tried
well,
to
the nurse was baffled.
The nurse was baffled and trying to figure it out with you, at least, rather than
she was like,
making a call and saying and not letting you know about it.
The first diagnosis, the nurse actually did make the call to list me as female, and kind of dismissed it as pretty much said this will probably affect the results.
Yeah. Like, what?
And it was kind of like, okay. And then that was 2018 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
2019. Yeah. And then, you know, a few months ago or a month ago or something, I did another one. And because I've been on testosterone for 7.5 years, the nurse said, I think I'm gonna mark you as male.
Yeah.
And I'm not actually supposed to do that, but I feel like I have to because it'll give me the most accurate results.
Yeah. This is also another thing I thought about it when that was happening. What do you mean you've got to mark someone as... It's a machine that takes a bunch of readings. It should be able to spit out data that you can then go, hey, this patient's a male or a female, to whatever extent that, like they're not sticking
I'm not entirely sure how those machines work,
but I know they didn't stick a different tube in your mouth.
No.
They ticked a box, and then the data was handled differently by someone.
Yeah.
Send all the data to your normal doctor, and then they understanding the nuances of you and how long you've been on testosterone and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean that, because, you know, it clearly is important, and potentially a year into testosterone, marking the female was the right thing.
Yeah.
If it makes so much of a difference.
That's why she was kind of like, umming and ahhing about it, and then eventually just went, I'll mark you as female. And I think, like, it was a factor that at the time I did present very female. So I think even just me presenting as very male now had a bit of an effect on the umming and ahhing over that. But yeah, like, nurses don't really know. They need more general education about just dealing with trans patients and stuff. And their jobs are harder because they don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't just make it annoying for me to have to sit there and be like, I don't know what you
Yeah.
need to mark me as. I'm not a health professional. You are.
Yeah.
I
I always think about it when, like, sometimes there's that one real shitty nurse who's like, oh, I can find a vein in your left arm but not in your right arm. It's like if all nurses only knew thought people only had veins in their left arm.
Yeah.
And then
and
then you had to be like, no, I'm one of the people with veins in my right arm.
then they were just like, ah.
Yeah, and then they didn't do it for you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that level of fundamental, like,
It's
if you're not prepared to deal with the crazy random mix of human bodies that exist, maybe you shouldn't be a health professional.
Yeah, and it's like, if the government just stopped using us as a fucking political football and actually just funded healthcare and education about this stuff to healthcare professionals, we wouldn't have so many surgeons being like going insane because they have to tell their trans patient that the best option for them is to go to Thailand.
Yeah. And like I don't know enough about how medical laws work specifically and stuff. I know we've got a Surgeon General, but there's like stuff like this is something that like a national leader in medicine, like our Surgeon General, should be saying, I actually don't give a shit about culture war or what LNP or Labour or One Nation might say. I, as the country's highest medical officer, am saying 99% of all studies in the world show that this is life-saving care.
Exactly.
It has to be it has to be added to Medicare, or even just, I, as the Surgeon General, am saying I will support you if you do gender reassignment surgery on someone, and then the government comes after you because they're not allowed, because you tried to claim it or something.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's one of the few things. Like, I think there's lots of reasons why scientists, which is what the higher level of doctors are, don't go out on a limb a lot of that time. And a lot of the time it's a possibly misguided but very understandable thing of like, well, if no one's doing the research, we won't even know in 15 years when things have changed. And it's like, I understand wanting to keep a position, but when it's something like this, the top doctors in Australia should be not doing anything else until it's solved. I don't know.
Well, most of the top doctors in Australia agree that trans healthcare is basically a miracle, and that the government using that care as a way to scare voters is disgusting. Most of the top doctors in Australia agree that this is that any trans healthcare is a fucking miracle of science. Gender affirmation healthcare reduces the risk of suicide in trans youth by up to 73%.
Yeah. You don't get percentages like that.
Yeah. And I bring up specifically trans youth because that is where the fear-mongering goes to. Is, it's always, in the first half of this, we discussed gay rights specifically so that we could say it's not hurting your kids.
It's not new, and it's not hurting anyone.
It's not hurting your kids. And this is another one of those things where gaining any sort of rights, it's just immediately, you're gonna harm children by doing this. And the fact is, that's just a lie. It's one of those black and white things that I was talking about, where if you want trans kids to live, you support gender affirmation care. And trans youth, we're not talking about sex change surgery.
No.
We're not talking about going on testosterone or estrogen. Sometimes, but at most we're talking about puberty blockers. But even then, that's really hard for kids to get on. And in Queensland, they're not allowed to at the moment.
Yeah, and maybe if it wasn't such a fucking culture war, anti-trans, stopping puberty, like, I grew a moustache and a full beard when I was 13, and I went through terrible bullying at school, and I had really, really painful acne, and, like, who knows, it's probably caused a bunch of the issues wrong with my, like, body. And, you know, like, I don't know enough to say, oh, maybe that's precocious puberty. That's a thing I've heard thrown around as a reason why a cis child might need puberty blockers.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's something like that. But maybe it's something entirely different that's still related to the endocrine system.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's so many things that
I know
like
so many
children aren't studied, like the endocrine system of children isn't really studied.
No, it's not.
Studied when we worry about menopause and stuff, and it's like, actually, that's the whole thing. It's all the endocrine system.
And they don't study it because they don't actually give a shit about kids.
No.
Like, that's usually the reason is because it's...
Which is stupid, because you grow stronger kids, you get better workers. Like, come on, guys. You're not even doing this shit right.
You're not even doing it right. But yeah, like, more easily accessible and affordable care could see that 73% higher.
Yeah.
And that's crazy numbers.
Those are like, hey, we invented the vaccine for malaria numbers. Those are the sort of numbers you normally need mosquitoes to end up getting. Like, you mean, like, a type of care has a 70%, if success is measured as someone not fucking dying, has a 73% success rate? What the that's not how...
It's like I said,
you don't get that in science. Grab it when you get it.
Exactly.
And help people.
And that's exactly what so many top doctors and scientists are saying. And God, I feel like such a lunatic just being like the top doctors and scientists. But I can't be bothered. It's like 2 a.m.
I read it in the white papers. The top doctors are all saying that trans is good.
No,
but they are.
But they are. They legitimately are saying that this is like a fucking miracle of healthcare that people are just ignoring because they have very needless worries about indoctrination and doctors doing stuff to your kids without your permission, which is not real.
Yeah.
I really hope everyone listening understands that is just not a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There is no fucking way that your child could go to a doctor and come out and say, actually, without anything else, I'm going to go and have a sex change now. I mean, I'm 12 years... That's how these people talk. It's like, this 12-year-old's going to go have a sex change. Yeah. That literally doesn't happen.
I have...
And I'm not even going to go into the fact about my opinions on what the fuck let him.
Yeah.
But
but
that it doesn't happen. Those fears, that fear-mongering, all of that shit, it just doesn't happen. It just really doesn't.
I have two serious thoughts after this, but my first thought is that when you're 9, you should get it all scooped out and you get a plate like put there like Ken until you want to make a decision.
Yeah. We're all Barbies.
Yeah.
Until we come of age.
Yeah.
and then we decide whether or not to be a Ken or a Barbie. Is that how that works?
No, there's no gender binary in my
Who was Michael
imagining.
Cera?
Beeped.
Well, I was about to say he's the non-binary
no, what was
one.
his name? His name was Arthur or
Alan.
Alan. And
Alan's the non-binary.
And he was
Barbie.
cancelled, so he must have been non-binary.
Yeah.
I don't know what that joke meant. So my two thoughts on
you had serious thoughts.
Yeah, which I'm fast forgetting. So let's figure out what they were quickly. Yeah, my first thing is almost none of this stuff is actually supported by PBS. No. So a doctor is not going to go behind a parent's back to prescribe something, because if the parent doesn't pay, they don't get any of their thing. Like there's no incentive for a doctor. What do they want?
Yeah,
you know,
a lot
unless
of people just kind of forget that capitalism exists.
Yeah, like it's all, there's no profit motive for it. You know, like I could come up with some real fun ideas about like they're transing all the men so that they can use the way they charge women more for products to get more money out of people.
Oh, that's
it's like,
that's an
you
interesting
know,
one.
And then even beyond that, so it's not publicly funded, and therefore there's no profit motive to. And if it was publicly funded, which it should be, like if it is publicly funded, there's a very clear record of who's done what and how it's been funded and paid for, and then it goes under a certain amount. So if you actually think it's dangerous for people to get trans-affirming, gender-affirming healthcare, you should be supporting it be a publicly provided thing, because that's the quickest way that the laws change around it. That's the quickest way science gets done about it. You know, and it's like, actually, people don't want that to happen because it's not based in anything like that.
No, it's not.
But as long as that's the justification, it's just like, come on, okay, if you think it's so bad, invest in looking into it. If you can prove it, that's one thing. And actually, you'll pay for a bunch of studies that all say, like, hey, you should be helping trans kids.
Yeah, exactly. Which has happened.
Yeah, keeps happening.
It keeps happening. It keeps happening all the time. So many organizations who are specifically doing this so that they can be like, oh, we're proving that trans people are doing this and that, and they just end up proving the opposite. It happens all the time.
Even the recent bad popes were fine with it. You know, like there's just a point where you've got to like
this household, we're not a fan of the Pope.
No.
However,
you know, I just
yeah, when the Pope can have lunch with trans ladies and this shit is going on, we live in goof world.
Quite aside from being the Pope, that's an old Italian man, and if he can get his act together enough to be nice to some trans people, I think anyone can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so adding gender affirmation healthcare to Medicare, it won't affect your wallet either.
No.
It's not gonna hurt you.
Guess what? When people get the appropriate care, it ends up being cheaper for them, and therefore the system in general. Mm-hmm. They maybe don't end up being prescribed something completely ineffective or irrelevant to them that might be taking away medication from some 40-year-old with a heart problem. You know, like
doctors don't have to fuck around with all of the Medicare lists and all of that stuff, and it's not going to affect your wallet to have this type of care on Medicare, but it will significantly improve the lives and the health of a population of people who are historically overlooked when it comes to healthcare.
And the more people are surviving and thriving, the more of a tax base you have. Like, it's just every step of the way, the more people who are doing better, the more taxes they'll pay, and the more the government will be able to help people do better. It's a pretty simple chain reaction, the way it's meant to work, and it feels like politicians and pundits and even just fucking idiots with their democracy sausage who aren't really paying attention are just dedicated to going like, this ball's kind of picking up speed as it goes down this hill. I might just like put a brick in front of it for a bit and like stop it so I can get in front of it or something. Like everything's primed for it to just like, hey, shit keeps getting better. People are living longer.
Yeah.
We understand so much more than, like...
Yeah, exactly. We live in an age where we know more about trans healthcare than we have ever known, and it is considered a fucking miracle of science. That's just... Yeah. Keep the fucking ball rolling, guys. Get it on Medicare, please.
Yeah, let's do something good.
Yeah. It doesn't have to and should never be either or when it comes to providing and receiving healthcare. We all deserve access. Trans people gaining rights to healthcare does not remove other people's rights to their
This is not a zero-sum game. It never has been.
Rights are not pie.
Yeah.
Other people gaining rights doesn't remove yours.
Yeah.
In fact, I could go on for
strengthens them.
couple hours about how trans people gaining rights actually means you gaining rights, even if you are not trans. Trans rights are workers' rights.
Yep.
Trans rights are housing rights.
Tell them again.
Are women's rights.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's all rights are part of a rich tapestry of human rights.
Yeah, exactly.
And every single one strengthens all the others. That's kind of the point.
And to end my script on a lovely little depressing note.
Yeah.
Australia doesn't have official human rights laws. So that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, we're signatories to the the international human rights bodies, and that doesn't really matter all that much. But
doesn't seem to.
In theory, it's kind of a good start. Not many places actually have a Bill of Rights,
no,
like the states do, and look how well that's going for them.
Yeah.
So to some extent, I think the implied rights in our Constitution do just as well as anything else, and maybe don't lead to school shootings all the time and extra other stuff like that, and even some of the softer, less scary and important sounding rights. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like I feel like every now and then on other podcasts we listen to, there's something where it's like, hey, 14th Amendment sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? It actually allows this to happen.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, there's the Bill of Rights doesn't seem like the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Universal Declaration of Human Rights
that
the majority of the world signed after we kicked some fascists in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good place to start,
a good
people.
place to start.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy learning or relearning some things?
I did. I have some other thoughts of where to start, but I cannot say them on air. So instead, I'm gonna see if my dog has anything to say.
Didge, have you got anything to say? I think he is fully asleep.
I can hear his little snores so well, but the mic's not picking him up. That's so sad.
There was a little bit at the beginning. It did pick up a little bit. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Didge says we need to start by killing fascists, and a dog said it, not me, so I can't get in trouble.
Oh, that's a really good way to get around that.
It
I
is.
should just have Didge in here every time. So I
Oh,
can just
absolutely.
say whatever.
Yeah. It's dogs and God.
Would you like to plug anything, my dear? You mentioned your mother's initiative earlier. Would you like to plug that again, just randomly?
Check out wildmacadamias.org.au. The macadamia is one of Australia's native fruit. It is a delicious nut that I'm sure everyone's familiar with. Most of the commercial varieties were stolen from indigenous people and taken to Hawaii and cultivated and then spread around the world. So most of the nuts we eat are members of a stolen generation, turns out.
Wow.
And then there's like a couple other native varieties that are varying levels of edible and tasty. Basically, there's, depending on which one you look at, there's, between 3 and 16 of them left in Australia, and they're incredibly important for biodiversity. They've evolved alongside lots of other plants and animals and bugs and stuff that are important. So the Wild Macadamia Conservation Society is engaging in finding these trees and protecting them and taking samples of them so that their genetic code can be rejuvenated. And there's been some really cool stuff with taking some of the genetics from the native plant, the native varieties, and breeding them into the commercial varieties that were bred in Hawaii, and they're just making better plants that'll hold up to climate change better and do really well in Australia and have a bunch of other benefits. So go eat some macadamia nuts. There's a bunch of interactive stuff you can do to help if you've seen a macadamia in your backyard that looks different to other macadamias you've seen.
Yeah.
It could really fucking matter.
Yeah,
and there's
really
an email
could.
to send in.
Your
and
mum has
build this
gone
big
on
map.
some road trips to see people's macadamias in their backyards.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, this is a nice old tree to look at, nothing special. Every now and then there's one that's like, oh, this might be number 3 of a certain tree. Like
amazing.
There's beyond that, I also want to plug the Lismore Flood Recovery Group and the Jargon Alliance. Doing quite a bit of cool, innovative stuff to try and help local communities and specifically Indigenous communities.
Nice.
And just in general, go to your library, stuff like that.
Go to your
hit up a skate park. Go skate.
Go skate. I'm gonna plug Beyond Bricks and Bars. It's
good move.
In Victoria, it's a trans community-led decarceration project. So they support criminalized trans and gender diverse people who are either in prison or have been released from prison.
Nice.
Beyond Bricks and Bars, and that's at flatout.com.
Nice.
You can find more information about them.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we'll put some links to those things we've talked about.
Exactly. And I'll put some links to my references as well.
Yeah.
Make sure those are available. Yeah. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Kel, for being my
Thanks. Yeah.
host. Oh yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Pippin.Nicholson. You can find Kel in our house.
Yeah, you can't find me, so don't look.
Yeah, you can find Kel in our house stressing over politics.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. I love you.
Love you. Much.